All right, welcome back. This is still the Polity, reaching you live from Abuja. I've been joined in the studio now by a guest in the house to speak on the about 2 weeks of the new administration and what the decisions that have been made, the impact they're having on the average Nigerian lives. I've been joined by broadcast journalist and executive director, Hope for the Masses Foundation, Oluwatomisin Adebukola. Good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon, Hamadine. How are you
I'm
doing today?
good. So
I
good.
was waiting for you to murder my name. But
Did I?
No, let's just give you like a 75.
Thank you so much. I'll work on it. Thank you.
No,
Thank you for
but really,
coming.
it was just the pronunciation.
Yeah.
That was the intonation that was wrong. The
Oh.
pronunciation was good.
Thank you so much. So welcome once again to the program.
It's a pleasure.
All right. You know, it's when it's a new administration, I think a lot of people are always ready to compare and contrast the quality of their lives, even if it's just a day difference.
Isn't
Yes.
it too soon, rather?
Yes, really. But the president, during his campaigns, promised that he would hit the ground running. Now, he has done or made some decisions that some persons would say are, you know, quite historical, and they've come in the space of just about 2 weeks. So I'd like to get your thoughts on, you know, how you would rate, you know, what you've seen so far, even though it's still early days.
It's still very early. Okay, so first of all, thanks for having me once again. But let's begin with the fact that we're always quick to judge as Nigerians. The last I heard, we used to do 100 days in office, and then we do 1 year in office. But now everybody is criticizing from the meaning. In fact, they started criticizing from his oath taking. I think that came from the number of comments, negative comments that had been in the air, you know, ever before he even was inaugurated into office. So I think it's too soon to judge, although I would talk about those issues that, you know, he had taken decisive actions about. Let's begin with the first one that he did during his inauguration, which
Subsidy
was
is gone.
fuel subsidy is gone. And then Nigerians criticized, and then we came about, oh, he shouldn't have said it like that, he should have been more careful, oh, he should have been more this, he should have been more that. Let's ask ourselves the question, weren't we prepared? Hadn't President Muhammadu Buhari told us 18 months ago that subsidy was going to be gone? The former president had, you know, stipulated when he wanted to do the job. The NLC came out and said, oh, there were this, they needed increments, it needed to be bus transportation for workers and all of that. And you see, Nigerians supported the NLC when they went on that strike, and you know, the president said, okay, we'll give you 18 months to get this out of the way. No Nigerian, we were too preoccupied with the electioneering process and the campaigning and the propaganda that we did not ask that outgoing president and the government, what are you doing to alleviate the likely suffering on Nigerians when you remove subsidy? I'd say President Muhammadu Buhari had removed subsidy 18 months ago. In my books, that was when he did the job. We just bought ourselves time and incurred more debt. Every single kobo that was spent on fuel subsidy from last year all the way till May 29, 2023 was borrowed. So it's like you're living on borrowed time. Subsidy was just living on borrowed time. It needed to go. And this government assumed office and said, you know what, I'm going to start on this note, this subsidy needs to go, and it was taken away. In the instant, people said, oh, the filling stations just started popping up the price, you know, it started going up and all. Wouldn't you think it is rather a coincidence that they all took it as high as between 500 and 600, and then when the NNPC finally came out with their price, it was around that same figure? Are you calling that a coincidence? So when Nigerians were not prepared, in my own calculation, when Nigerians were looking the other way and were refusing to prepare, the people who were going to gain the money and lose the subsidy were prepared. They already had an idea. This is going to be the price. So that NNPC chart coming up with price in Lagos versus price in other places was just maybe informing Nigerians The petrol marketers already knew where they were going.
But do you think Nigerians might have been preparing with 30 extra days at least, even if they weren't very prepared? But to the average mind, June 30,
you should have given me,
you know.
There's never a good time to do a bad thing. So while I was talking to a couple of my friends that week, I said, oh my God, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu just ripped the band-aid off. So you get it. So it was just like, you know, you have plaster over a wound and they've been dressing it for you for quite a number of months and you've been feeling cool. In fact, you've gotten comfortable with the wound there, you know. And then somebody just came one day, one doctor just picked it up and just ripped the band-aid off. That was what it did. For me, Nigerians will prefer time, much more time. Everyone, including myself, would have loved much more time. I mean, before the fuel subsidy was removed, I used to buy fuel for my car at 16,000, between 13 and 16,000 naira to fuel my car. So I have my full tank at that price. When fuel subsidy was removed and I wanted to buy fuel, I tried buying 12,000. It didn't get to my, I think it got to like quarter tank. So 2 days later, I went to buy 5,000 and it just climbed a little bit. So one day I said, okay, belt the cat. Let's see how fast, you will spend this money. I bought my fuel at 39,000 naira to fuel my car. Trust me, I've not bought another since then. I'm practically not driving. And that's exactly what a lot of Nigerians, people are not looking for how. Not because the money is readily available, but because we understand that there is never a good time to do a bad thing. We come to terms with the fact that this is a bad thing that needed to go, and then it has gone. There's no use crying over spilled milk. It's gone, it's gone. That's for me, that's for subsidy. Nigerians can cry wolf, we can scream about it, we can beg for 30 more days, but trust me, we will criticize President Bola Ahmed Tinubu more at the end of that 30 days because then Nigerians will be asking the questions, what measures have you put in place? But let's ask ourselves, what measures can he really put in place in 30 days? If he starts the distribution of money, what's that thing they wanted to do?
Palliatives.
Distribution of please don't use that word, palliatives. It gives me. But the distribution of this 5,000 naira, I just told you how much I buy my fuel. So let's assume they are giving you 5,000 naira as a palliative of some sort. Would it do anything?
I don't think you would even qualify, for those to receive.
We won't qualify. I think you two wouldn't qualify. But then let's look at the low-income earners. They give them 5,000 naira, and then you have to transport yourself. And somebody told me in Lagos the other week, is transport fare from Ikeja to Ifako axis now toll-free is about 1,800. So 5,000 naira, which you would have given him, would have served him for just a period of 1 week to go to work and go back home.
But what do you think about that idea? It seems as though the average Nigerian, anyone could have told the government for free that, this amount of money that you were borrowing, it wasn't a grant as was initially reported. It's not going to go very far or do anything. So, I wonder, it's expected that people in the government are high level, what's the word? There's a word for them.
Thinkers,
technocrats, and so on and so forth. But I wonder,
do you really want me to talk about the capacity of the people who wanted to borrow that money for you, for Nigerians, for you and I? I don't think it has more to do with the fact that they are professionals in their various fields. I mean, if you look at their CVs, the Minister of Finance, the former Minister of Finance, Zainab Ahmed, had all the degrees that you can think of. That's not a problem. It is we. Now, we expected President Muhammadu Buhari to give us palliatives during COVID-19. As a matter of fact, people with the wherewithal to have fed other families during COVID-19 were asking, why didn't I get the palliative? Everybody wanted palliative. Yes, we deserve it in a working system. We do deserve it. But then when the palliatives were finally got it, we started hearing the fact that somewhere in some people's houses distributed for birthdays and all that. And then the idea of palliative became a byword rather than a positive one. That's why I said I don't like the word at all. Now, palliative of 5,000 naira to each person. Weren't we here during the COVID-19 era as well, when money was supposed to be distributed as palliative? and it was supposed to be the social safety network or thereabout, and they were looking at the really poor Nigerians, and the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management said they gave money out, and people were asking for the register. How did you come about it? And then people started asking questions. Did you get? We couldn't find people in our regular environment who could tell us they got. The history of giving money in Nigeria, that's exactly what it is. The last time we saw monies that were given and people could say they got it was during the trader money era of the campaign season, when Professor Yemi Oshibajo was going from market to market, giving people what they call market money and trader money. That was as far as it went, and people were getting the money. In those days, people would say we got 10,000 naira, right? There was proof, as it were. During the COVID-19, there was a little bit of skirmish here and there. People were not really sure. And Nigerians had a big, there was that big void there. It's not true. Oh, they got, oh, they didn't get. And there was argument. Now it came to petrol subsidy. You now say they should give money. Naturally, the average Nigerian has doubts already. Are they going to give it? Is it a scheme to just collect more money for them to take away when they are going? There was doubt already on ground. $800+ million, am I correct?
Yes,
$800 million was the approval President Muhammadu Buhari sought from the Senate to give Nigerians. Who got it? Who is expected to get it? What is the money meant to do? We should learn from history. When you gave them 10,000 naira, they said it was vote buying. When you gave COVID-19 money, they said it is not true. Why would you want to give them 5,000 naira again? I'm asking. Wouldn't it be better to buy a bus and fuel the bus and put it at strategic places and say free transportation for school students, so their parents would, not spend money on transport? Wouldn't it be better to say, oh, farmers can now transport their goods from their farms, so put it in strategic places, free of charge, to the nearest market? Wouldn't it rather make sense than saying civil servants whose salaries, trust me, are not the low income earners anymore in Nigeria? Yes, we have those at the lower rung of the ladder, but civil servants, you now have bosses there. Fill the buses. You're already doing that in some cases. But the real Nigerians who needed the money are still on the streets, trekking distances that they would never have thought they could trek until fuel subsidy was removed. So for me, the total idea of 5,000 naira low-income earner scheme, or whatever it is for subsidizing your transport fare, is a waste of money. By all means, if you say you have the register of the low-income earners and the real poor in Nigeria, so it means they're accessible. It means you have their house address. It means you know what they do. So you can easily send people down to their various, locality and distribute foodstuff there. So you can reduce the amount of money they will spend on food. After all, they're going to spend lots on transport. If kerosene is willingly, given to people, then you've given them something. But giving them 5,000, it's just digging another hole. Nigerians won't believe it was given. And I really, on my own, I still won't believe it was given as well. How did you distribute it? To their bank accounts? Do we have proof? Can you publish the accounts? And don't forget, these monies are usually distributed in cash. So they take these monies to localities, in buses, and then you sit down, somebody is just, dishing out some money, as it were. What are we talking about? It didn't work in the past. It can't work now. Nigerians are wiser. And the doubts will keep mounting up if we keep towing the same line. So I don't think it has more to do with the people who developed that idea. I think it's just laziness, basically doing what we used to do because it's the easiest thing to do.
All right. You made a statement about what could he have done? What were the things that could have been rolled out? So
as alternatives.
Before that, I'll just take you back to your first statement about Nigerians being in a hurry to analyze and so on. I'll just take a quote here by Lenin. His name is Vladimir Ilyich Lenin. He says, "There are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks where decades happen." And I believe that's also what's happened here. The rush of very major decisions being taken. But
various decisions that had been put in the gap.
Yes. You know, and I think the interesting part of this is that it's an APC to APC government. It is not as though a new party came in, and it's almost as though the same party is now sort of drastically different in ideology and ways to move forward, which brings the question of parties that Nigerians always talk about. Do parties have ideologies? But that's besides the point. But
don't forget that fuel subsidy was in the ideology and part of the campaign promises of President Muhammadu Buhari in 2015. He just never did it. It was always there.
Yeah,
so it must have been a party ideology. That's just what I'm saying.
All right. Yeah, but you know, these things, when they weren't done, party members also came out to defend it.
Why it couldn't be done? The vice president then, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, you know, especially when we were talking about what's this common word? There's this word we were all talking about 3-4 years ago.
This is deregulation?
Oh, it's not deregulation. There was something we wanted to do. Whenever we talk about our federalism, I would say Nigeria is not practicing restructuring. And then it was also part of the agenda.
It actually reminds me of the Orosaye report and, you know, a lot of that. But let's talk about how these decisions are affecting the average Nigerian. Yeah, you've made the point that Nigerians were not prepared and all that. And I
would
think
never be.
Yes. But the issue is, whenever these arguments or discussions come up, there's a question: what else could they have done? I wonder, do you have any suggestions as to how else could this have gone? You know, definitely there's nothing that would please everyone, but at least for the experts out there who are analyzing and saying, you know, this is not the way. What other way? He had about 30 days, assuming he was going to just go with the flow. What
and just allow it to go. You see, for me, there was no other way. I did a lot of educating Nigerians about the need for fuel subsidy to go in the last 24 months. And because I kept doing that, because I knew that we're never prepared for anything. We say, oh, we would have had more time. Oh, we would have needed more time. So when we were speculating that COVID-19 was coming in other countries, we never thought about it. I mean, Nigerians were a very religious set of people were saying, God forbid it won't come near us. And then, voila, February 26, 2020, it was announced that a single case was discovered. And from there, Nigerians were never ready. So when we were going on lockdown, I for one didn't feel that we needed a lockdown anyway, but it was the federal government policy that we went on lockdown. So we followed the strategy of the rest of the world in tackling COVID-19. Were we prepared? No. Were we prepared for the lockdown? No. Were we prepared for even the treatment? No. We were coming up with treatment as it was discovered. So at first, there were no isolation centers, and then it came, and we kept doing these things as it was coming. That is the kind of people that we are. So for me, we could have said, oh, you could have suspended it for 30 days. But please tell me, what else could he have done? He has no ministers yet. He's going to work with civil servants, permanent secretaries of ministries. Ideally, all of the directors should have handed over now to the nearest, civil servant. You should be looking at no ministers. Don't forget those special advisors and the rest of it. So he was going to be working as one man. So don't forget, there were two people that you guys, that we all elected into office and has taken office, the president and his vice. What could they have done in 30 days?
Right, I'm so sorry to cut you short, Adebukola. Let's quickly go on a break now. When we return, I will delve further into that. All right, let's quickly go on a break. We'll be right back. Let's take a report now. And when we return, the program continues.
Place the building blocks of a sustainable digital economy. As you are aware, His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, has set an achievable target of creating 1 million jobs in the digital economy sector. We all know this was part of his campaign promises. Gladly to work the work, he has signed the data protection law that will inspire trust for jobs to be created. Accordingly, on the part of this commission, measures are being put in place to create 500,000 jobs in the data protection ecosystem. This is about 50% of the job creation target that Mr. President has set for us in this country. And if you can get 50% from this data protection ecosystem alone, you can imagine what will happen to us other subsectors. That means we can even conveniently surpass that 1 million target that was set by Mr. President. At the core of the NDPR is the essence of respect. Respect for the personal data of our citizens, respect for privacy, and respect for digital rights. This respect is not solely edged in the LDP, that is the Nigerian Data Protection Act. The change in legislation is not merely an addendum to our law books. It's a transformative stride towards shaping a culture where the protection of personal data is a cherished principle and a valuable obligation.
Welcome back. This is still the Polity, and I'm still in the studio here with Oluwatomisin Adebukola. All right, let's so that we cover all the grounds. Let's quickly move on to the next one. We've talked about the first subsidy removal. The next bit of decision making was the unification of the exchange rate and what economists call floating the naira. What's your take on that? And do you think this is also in the right direction?
Okay. You see, the exchange rate, let me ask you a very typical question, and which every Nigerian has been affected with. As a Nigerian, do I like it? Yes. Do I think we're suffering for it? No. But, you see, the people that are crying the most right now, the first thing I did when the exchange rate was unified, I said to myself, oh, praise God, thank God I don't have any dollar I'm keeping anywhere. So it's just a matter of I don't have money I'm keeping anywhere. So I'm kind of like, cool, I'm fine with it. For those who store their money in dollars, of course, the value had come down. Ditto the Forbes new record that came out where Nigerian billionaires are now being recalculated. The value of their wealth is now being recalculated, and Dangote is no longer the richest man in Africa based on that. In the general terms, the fact that Nigerians now know that the dollar to the naira has dropped makes us feel like layman, makes us feel like things are going to get cheaper. Because usually when the price of the dollar goes up, tomato seller in the market tells you, don't you know that dollar price has increased? Then the Gary man tells you, it's dollar, it's dollar. You ask him, Oga, you they use dollar buy Gary, I beg you they take and buy fuel. He tells you, they affect everything. So food becomes more expensive when dollar price goes higher to the naira. Now, when you look at transport, it gets a little bit higher. We have always experienced increase in regular commodity since the naira to the dollar has always been on the rise. Now that it's unified, it's about 600 and something now. I think we should be thankful for it. However, you see, the free fall also means that anything can happen, which means tomorrow it could go up, and next tomorrow it could come down. If there is a way to keep it floating around a certain window such that Nigerians are not looking at getting money and then today you got to, it's possible you want to pay a customer and you got the dollar today and then you go back to the bank tomorrow and it has dropped further than what, meanwhile you bought it with naira. If there is a way it can be at a particular window, I think businessmen will be more thankful for it. But for those of us who are laymen in Nigeria, what will make us happy? Because people quoted it too. When Buhari got there, dollar was 186 naira to 186 naira to $1. It was during Buhari's time that dollar became 760 something, even as far as 800 at a particular point in time. Nigerians talk about it. And people talk about it a lot. Now that it is falling, let's also say, during Tinubu's time, naira has dropped to, you get? So let's measure the strides by what they are. Is it good for us? Yes, because it tells us that the value of our currency has appreciated a little. So if the IMF is now saying to us that the dollar to the naira is about 600, is going to stay about 600 for another few days, it could go further. We want it to go further, because as these policies are coming out, let them affect the lives of the everyday Nigerians and the businesses that are doing business. The other one now is the fact that $10,000 will be made available. You can do deposits of up to $10,000. It's also good for the businessmen. I think in the past, even to get ordinary BTA is a problem. You go to the bank, they tell you dollar is not available, but when you go to the street, Aboki has it. And the Bureau de change, especially the ones on the street, they have the dollars in thousands. But when you go to our commercial banks, they don't have it. It's so bad that if you deposit your dollar and you want to withdraw it back, it goes through really very long, strenuous, activity, as if the money is not yours. So if dollar to the naira can be stabilized a little around a particular window from time to time, I think we should be better. I'm looking at President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's experience in the private sector and relationship across board coming to play here. I'm looking at a situation where the naira to the dollar to the pound to the euro to the yen, would appreciate gradually. Let's have a dollar. Let's have a naira that makes sense. All right, so that our politicians will stop carrying dollar about and start carrying naira.
That's fair enough. So I think one common thing about these policies is that you're talking about the effect on the average Nigerian.
Yes.
So at the moment, there's a little bit of, not a little bit, you've described it yourself. There's economic, will I call it upheaval, having to pay double and all that.
Yeah.
But before we get into, the fact that these policies have direct sacrifices that the masses
would have to
make. The masses
would have to
pay. Let's talk about something else first, which is what I mentioned before. Isn't it interesting or noteworthy that it is the same government? It seems as though this government is going the polar opposite direction. Because as you
to avoid that.
No, because the way you've broken it down now, someone might ask, why wasn't this just done? Why is it that this brilliant idea, this thing that is going to fix the country,
from the same political party?
Yes, so I wonder, there are speculations that perhaps those who worked to put the former president in office knew of his capabilities and decided, you know what, for 8 years, let's just endure. And then after 8 years, we'll rebuild from the ashes. Why are they taking such drastic measures? The same party.
Since we're not analyzing President Muhammadu Buhari's tenure here, I'd just say one sentence about that. President Muhammadu Buhari didn't do as badly as we say he did. That's as people say he did. And there are many parameters to show for that. However, did Nigerians suffer great pain during that period? I'd say yes. Communication and some other issues was a big problem. The insecurity didn't help matters. And you see, decisive action where it is needed didn't also come as at when needed. And that, no matter how good a thing that you're doing is, if you do not communicate it the right way, or if you do not take that decision as at when due, it will be seen to have been that you did nothing. Now let's go to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It's the same party, you did say, but don't forget that, like you said, didn't these people, didn't they look at who they were, the capacity as technocrats and all that before they got into office? You're looking at two different people, two different dreams. I think President Muhammadu Buhari was the change agenda, and this is supposed to be the renewed hope. So we have different dreams. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu tells us he has been dreaming to be Nigeria's president for so long. He must have had these, issues in the corners of his bedroom, considering this. Because I remember at the colloquium every year, he usually does this speech about this, about that. Yeah. The idea of student loans, it was at the colloquium, I think, in 2019, or thereabout, that he proposed it and talked about it. These are issues that he had preferred solutions to. Don't forget, I think Bola Ahmed Tinubu was using the colloquium as his communication to President Muhammadu Buhari, while President Olusegun Obasanjo was using the letter, the open letter. So I felt he was communicating some of this strategy, policies, since he didn't have the power to do it, to the president at that time. and it wasn't done. Now, don't forget, he was also the national leader of the party. He must have heard the Nigerians blame him for some of the pain they went through during that administration. Now that he has come into office, he has taken the decision to say, I am going to do these things. And he seemed to be doing them. So we are measuring and saying, oh, in 2 weeks, this man has done a lot of... He has not really done a lot. He has just taken certain decisions that I feel he has given himself room to now do certain things. So if the subsidy, for example, didn't go, how would he get money to pay subsidy? It meant he would have had to borrow. And so when he's taking the letter to go borrow to the Senate, Nigerians will say, hey, APC has come, they are borrowing. So I feel he has just made the road smoother for himself, to just make this easier to deliver some of those dividends that he promised to deliver to Nigeria. So it's two different people at the end of affairs, maybe the same party. After all, the states can tell us the difference. Compare two states, two APC states or two PDP states, and tell me if they really are performing at optimum.
All right, that's fair enough. Now let's quickly talk about, like I said, the masses having to suffer this. I spoke earlier about the Orosai report, which recommended the abolition and merger of 102 government agencies and parastatals, amongst the host of other recommendations. So the question now is, to an average Nigerian, I believe what a lot of people are saying, you know, I'm sorry to put you in the box too, but they're saying, well, there's this woman, she's well-to-do, she looks like, you know, she's definitely not the lower class. She's telling me that these policies, they are good.
They're good for me.
Yes, but I'm trekking. She's telling me they're great. Oh, yeah, but they can't see that. They can't see that.
I'm trekking too.
You know, so they're saying a lot of experts, economic experts, some of them have been saying all these things should be done for 8 years.
Exactly.
And then they're saying,
exactly. Even don't forget foreign nationals,
yes, even the
foreign
IMF
institutions
has weighed in and
talking about
supported it. So I wonder, how could you be able to, you know, really explain to someone that these are the benefits? But that aside, how do you think we can begin to see the reverse of this, where the common man looks and says, wow, the president is really suffering. Perhaps he's now having only 6 hours lights in Aso Rock or something like that.
And don't forget the lights matter. We now have more lights than we ever had before. And I'm waiting for that bill, you know, that will come at the end of the month for those who are on the postpaid.
Yes.
Because now we have so much light.
True. So that's the question. How can it be done, or how do you think it can be seen to be done, that these hardships is being split, you know, so that we know that the elites, the political class, they're feeling something too. Definitely is never going to be on the level of the common man.
But at least let us feel that they're feeling something.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not going to make recommendations to the president, because then the elite will come for me and say, hey, we won't give you a job. You are the one that said they should go and be doing. But really, that was on a lighter note. To be sincere, I think we should get to the point where the common man needs to begin to benefit more from government policies. And one of the things that I would recommend that this government does in the next couple of weeks is to make sure that we have a social security network that actually works this time. You see, there should be homeless homes. There should be places for homeless people. There should be food banks in communities that families can go to pick up food. There should be an agency of government that is saddled with that responsibility. We have food, they're wasting on the way to the market, storage system is bad, and then people are going hungry. It's a reality. Except for the farmer that has his food and can eat. I can tell you that many people who do white collar jobs are going very hungry. I judge by the amount of please dash me 5,000 naira that I get, or dash me 2,000. I mean, it's painful when a grown man that has a family of like 3 children comes to you to say, give me 2,000, and you are saying, oh, I only have 5,000 naira with me. And you see this 5,000, it is inside it that I will do transport and do food for my family too. You know, it's that difficult. We have gotten to the point where we need to have a government that sees to that. If the federal government puts those measures in place, let that be food banks from place to place. Spend your money, that money that you want to spend on 5,000 naira. spend it having food banks. And please do not put just civil servants there. You already have enough NGOs, popular ones that are doing this kind of work, that you can confirm. The Red Cross distributes. What's this one? UNICEF does a lot with different NGOs and different people. You have registered NGOs. You can confirm their capacity to do this work. As a matter of fact, you can use your Ministry of Women Affairs and all that. Don't just give it to one government parastatal that will now turn it into a warawa kind of thing, and then bring only their friends and their family members to come and get. And then they tell you halfway. In fact, they'll do quarter distribution and tell you it's finished. Yet every day the DG is going, these directors are going, the messenger is going with bags and bags of food home, and the people that need it do not get it. Make it an open thing. Put the food bank in a visible place where everybody can walk into. As long as you can, it's food. And if food is resolved, trust me, Nigerians will complain less. Because it's difficult. A lot of people tell you, I've not done soup in my house. How many meals do we have in this country that we will not eat with soup? No, but sincerely, let's look at it. Beans is very expensive. You want to eat rice, even if you do concoction every day, you will still put pepper inside, which means you still need the rice. Beans is expensive. Gari is relatively, but will you drink gari morning till night? If you do eba, expensive soup. Even if you want to buy okra, now you can no longer buy okra 500 and take it to feed a family of 5 more than once with no protein. So what exactly are we talking about? If we cannot make food readily available to the people, that's the best kind of palliative that this government can make available. If you do it, discuss with the state governors. Thank God is meeting with the state governors as well. Tell them. I hear them saying civil servants can now come to work 3 days a week. I have serious issues with that. You should have made transportation available. Buy buses. Put fuel in the buses. Put plenty of buses in strategic places. Let them find their way to a common place. Pick them. Take them to work. Take them back from work to the same place. You're not saying you will monitor them at home. When they were in the workplace, were you monitoring them? Aren't we all here? Don't we all know that government is the highest employer of people in Nigeria, which is supposed to be the opposite? Should be less. But the government employs more people. And a lot of people, you go to many places, they are gisting from morning till night. Civil servants are not really doing as much as they should have been doing. Whereas the ones that are working are really working hard. But you have too many places where people are not working. And then you now give them 2 days off. They are now working at home. How do you monitor? Did they have a clock in? Can't you clock in and then just go and sleep? And then come back, set alarm and clock in again at 12 o'clock? And then go and watch film? And then clock in at 2 o'clock? It's not going to work. It's just a lazy way of solving a big problem. Don't keep them at home. Get them to be productive. Put transportation measures in place. The state governor. After all, you're going to still pay them full salary, even if they are working 3 days. So put transportation systems in place and put food banks out there for the real poor to go to. Trust me, the big man somebody will not go to collect food. Even the civil servant will not go there to collect food.
All right. So that we start rounding up. I would like to get your thoughts quickly about the Student Loan Act. I asked for that because the Permanent Secretary said sometime last week that the target is the next academic cycle come September. I believe tomorrow, 20th of June, the committee will be meeting to iron out some of the final details. But what net effect do you think this will have?
Okay, so we are Nigerians are said to be some of the most educated people in the world. Unfortunately, among the young people today, we have less people going to school, and that's a reality that is daunting. When I was growing up, I'm still a youth, but while I was growing up, the only kind of thing that you were permitted to think about, even if you want to do trade, at that point in time, where I grew up in Osun State, in Ilesha, by the way, was only education, higher education. Whether you want to do college of education, polytechnic or university, you must go to higher education. Now you have young people from the secondary school telling you, I don't really need to go to school because there are so many alternatives to make money. Being a social media celebrity now is much more lucrative to them than having an MSc in any discipline of any choice. So you have many young people without discipline. They have no discipline. Their discipline is social media. And you see, I'm interested in this because I'm just wondering, now that there is a loan that you can take to actually go to school, like they do in our so-called greener pasture. Now that there is a loan, I want to see how many young people will take advantage of it. You'll be surprised that many of the people who take advantage of it are likely to be parents who really want their children to go to school. We'll not have to encourage them. But the real young people that should be taking advantage of this would see it as unnecessary measures to just tie them down for another 4 years in a place. And then they will think about it, we're owing government. If I get a job, I'll have to. So I think they should sweeten the deal a little bit. Government needs to sweeten it. If you really want these young people to take advantage of this loan, it's not enough to just sign the policy. Fantastic idea, good enough. Now it becomes readily available. You get admission, you can walk up to them and get a loan. Yes, good. But then sweeten it a little bit, because only the people who were really interested in going to school will still go after this scheme. But sweeten it by making sure that if you go through the scheme, there is a ready-made job at the end of the tunnel for you. So you're saying at least if you're able to graduate with this kind of degree, the way international organizations like KPMG do, and say if you have a first class, you have automatic employment with the federal government, for example. If you have a second class upper, you have automatic letter of recommendation to two industry leaders, even if they can't employ you, to take you on an internship to get you, prepared for actual work. Sweeten it in such a way that most people will now know that, of course, if I work hard and I have a first class, I will get employed. So the quicker I get employed, the quicker I get to pay. But if I would owe government, finish school, go back to the street and start looking for a job, like some of us did. So you now look for a job and look for a job and look for a job and look for years. The debt is there. They're waiting for you to start working. When you finally start working, maybe you're already advanced in age, you're now ready to settle down. There is not enough money to even take care of your loans and your person, not to talk of giving back to your family. So let's make it easier for people to make these things available. It's not just enough to do the policy. Fantastic policy, I tell you. Congratulations to the students who were willing to go to school. But please let me know when they sign for PhD, because I want to take, I'll be interested in that.
That's fair enough. I wish we could go into more details about that act, but we've run out of time now. Thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure.
Thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure.
All right, that's all we'll take on this segment of the program. We'll go on a short break. When we return, I'll be joined with another guest to speak more on issues on the state of the nation. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.